and infinitely subtle is rarely encountered even in millions of ages. Now we see it, hear it, receive and maintain it. May we completely realize the Tathagata's true meaning. All right. So first, perhaps a first for our community, I'm not sure. We have the Buddhist Temple of Toledo Fall Ongo reading packet. Ooh. It's only 100 pages, which is not a lot for 3 months. And most of the readings are really easy, simple. So with that encouragement, I hope that you actually read it. It's going to go out as a PDF, I believe. And it is broken up into 3 sections. So the first one is called Part 0. Because we couldn't get the number 1 to work on the computer for some reason. It just seemed right. I don't know. So this first part is kind of interesting. It's starting with Jung, his encounter with Zen, and what he thinks the Western mind is capable of. And I find this absolutely fascinating. So I'm not going to tell you what he thinks. I want you to read the text. And then, so that starts in around 1930. And then we jump to 1969, London, England. And the same kind of questions are being asked, even though several Zen masters have come to the London Buddhist Society. And then we jump to Uchiyama talking to American Zen students and appreciating the treasure and the gift that American practitioners are. And then finally, we have Yamada Roshi, who's in our koan lineage, talking about, look, if you've got these 3 things going for you, you've passed the bar, and you can be a Zen student. It's actually really sort of a fascinating walk through history. And then the second part is sort of the how-to manual. What is it? How do you do it? And the it that we're referring to is the name of the Ango, Prajna Samadhi. And I've been talking about this a little bit. So I won't go into great detail right now about the definition of that and so on. And then finally, in the third section, are these wonderful teachings from Hong Ji on silent illumination, which is kind of the expression of what we find in this calm, abiding samadhi that we're all going to be practicing, this anga. So it's pretty exciting, it's really relevant, and I do hope that you all read it and take it up. Roshi and I are going to be using this to give talks throughout the anga. So, and we are continuing on with our grimoire, our book of antidotes against the spells cast by samsara. And we're up to case 22, so we're almost halfway through the book, which is kind of interesting. It goes by fast. Why am I getting that? Is there something wrong here? Just the movement? Okay. I'll try to be still. Sorry. That was a very sad joke. Okay. The case, Kaisho and a flagpole. Ananda once said to Kaisho, "The world-honored one transmitted to you the brocade robe. What else did he transmit to you?" Kaisho called out, "Ananda." Ananda answered, "Yes, sir." Kaisho, pull down the flagpole at the gate. Mumon's commentary. If you can give the exact turning word to this koan, you will see that the meeting at Mount Kutakucha is definitely present here. If not, then know that Vipassana Buddha is still unable to get the truth, even though he began seeking in remote antiquity. Mumon's poem. The calling out is good, but even better, the answering. How many are there who have opened their true eyes? The elder brother calling out, the younger brother replying, the family's shame is revealed. This is the spring that does not belong to yin and yang. So this particular koan has a really nice sort of backstory to it. And I thought it might be fun to kind of look at some of the characters. So Kaisho is Ma Kaya Shapa. Okay, do you remember that name if you've been hanging around Zen for a while? Ma Kaya Shapa was the first transmitted person in the Zen line. It's said that when the Buddha was preaching on Vulture Peak, that he held up a flower and he twirled it, and Ma Kaya Shapa smiled. And the Buddha said a lot of flowery words, and basically, I give you the transmission of the Dharma. because he saw something in Makayashapa. And of course, this is sort of the signature tune of our Zen line. It's quite heretical to think, my goodness, the whole line transmitted on a smile and a flower. I think there might be a few things missing there, right? Zen says, no, nothing missing. It's all good. In fact, it's better than good. So Mahakayashapa, he was actually a little bit older than the Buddha. So the Buddha died around at 80 years old. And let's roll back to when Mahakayashapa was born. It's said that the room filled with this golden light. And this golden light entered his mouth and down his throat. So clearly the dude was blessed in some way, right? And his name, Kayashapa, means swallows light. Isn't that pretty? Swallows light. Anyway, he was born a Brahmin, so he would have been in the more upper class caste of Indian society. And apparently he didn't really like the Buddha very much because the Buddha was preaching things that were against the caste system, particularly by saying everyone has this nature, this Buddha nature. This doesn't matter what caste you were born in. Apparently, at some point, the Buddha convinced Kayashapa that he was right, Kayashapa was wrong, and what happens is when you win in a debate, in ancient times, the person who lost had to take on your understanding. It's said that Mahakayashapa was very, very skilled at understanding the moral and ethical teachings of the Buddha. So that would be the Vinaya. And they describe him as like, even though he was born into this Brahmin class, which was an upper class in Indian culture, he walked around in rags. And he didn't eat much, so he was totally emaciated. And there's this story that even some of his students were like, dude, can you just eat something? And maybe, let's sew some nicer clothes for you. It's a little bit hard to look at you. Never mind, get your teaching here. So that's a little snippet of Mahakayashapa. And then the other character in this story is Ananda. Now, Ananda was the Buddha's cousin, okay? It's said that he was born on the night that the Buddha attained awakening. So he's much, much younger than Kayashapa. He had this incredible superpower. And his superpower was being able to memorize verbatim, exactly, precisely, all the sermons that the Buddha ever gave. Now, he started being the Buddha's attendant around maybe in his 20s, early 20s. And it's said that he was like so hot, so beautiful, right? That, he had to spend a lot of time fending off all the suitors, right? And there was this one line where I read, and the Buddha helped him fend off all these suitors. So I don't know exactly what that is or was, but it kind of might be a research PhD thesis. I don't know. So, I mean, just have this visual of this like gorgeous, young, hunky guy on one side being the attendant, and this emaciated, in rags, like wizened old dude on the other side. And this was the Buddha's entourage. This makes, I don't know, it just makes sense, doesn't it? So, when the Buddha died, he had like supposedly 500 enlightened disciples, which is quite a lot, right? I would love to have 500 enlightened disciples, so let's get to it, shall we? And they got together because they wanted to figure out, well, what the heck did he say? How do we codify this? How do we make his teachings accessible through time? We can't just lose everything. We really need Ananda because he knows all the sermons. He memorized everything. And Kaishapa says, oh no, Ananda cannot be at the convention. Ananda isn't enlightened. And in order to be there, in order to have something to say about the Buddha's teaching, you actually have to be enlightened. So can you imagine Ananda just being so crushed? But I know every single word he said. And Kaishapa saying, not enough. Not enough. Right? And that, again, you can really feel the flavor of Zen in this story, right? So Ananda said, forget this. I'm going to the next session, and I'm going to just sit my butt off for the entire time. And he was so motivated because he really wanted to be at this convention, because he knew he had so much to contribute, that he just sat day and night, and lo and behold, he had a Kensho experience. Now, Kensho experiences can be all kind of really deep, middling, shallow, whatever. It's sort of like, but regardless, you've had the experience, right? So Kaishapa says to him, well, okay, I think you might have had this Kensho experience, but you can only come to the convention if you can pass yourself through the keyhole at the door of the cave that we're all convening in. Now, for all koan students, your ears prick up, right? That's a koan right there. So apparently, Ananda passed the koan, and the rest is history, because all of the sermons and all of the teachings, all those big fat books that Bhikkhu Bodhi writes and that are in the library, come from Ananda. And what is the famous phrase that's usually at the beginning of all the Buddhist sermons? Thus I have heard. And that is Ananda speaking. Thus I have heard. Isn't that cool? All right, so here we are. We've got the two characters going. So after the Buddha died and Ananda was studying with Mahakaishapa, they said, I think, for at least 20 years, if not more. So here we are in the koan, and they're in a student-teacher relationship. Okay? So Ananda once said to Mahakaishapa, The world-honored one transmitted to you the brocade robe. What else did he transmit to you? Now, this question is coming from someone who has had a Kensho experience, knows all the words, all the sermons of the Buddha. Yet he's got this sort of prickling sense of doubt. You got the robe, you smiled at the twirling of the flower. Is there something else? Is there something I'm missing? And honestly, our practice absolutely turns on this question. You know, the bottom of the bucket is always falling out in practice. There's always more to uncover and reveal. There's no end to our Dharma practice. Dogen famously said, when the Dharma fills your body and mind, there's always a question. When the Dharma isn't filling your body and mind, you think you got it. Now the response is so interesting. My Kayashapa called out, Ananda. Ananda answered, yes, sir. Makayashapa said, pull down the flagpole at the gate. So pull down the flagpole at the gate means that the Teisho, which is what we're experiencing right now, is over. When a Teisho, back in the old days when a teacher was giving a talk, the flagpole would go up so all the villagers or whatever could see it. It's interesting, there's this quote I recently read about Rinzai Zen. They said Rinzai Zen is like a red scarf tied to the top of a tree on a high mountain, very high mountain. Everybody can see it, but it's really hard to get it. So, the delicious truth of our practice is that the bottom is always falling out, and it is perfect and complete, lacking nothing. Both sides. And the conscious dualistic mind has a hard time living in that seeming contradiction. And this particular koan is pointing out one side of that seeming contradiction. Why would the Teisho be done after 3 words? Ananda. Yes, sir. If you can enter there, in the mystery and the completeness of that, then we're seeing eyebrow to eyebrow. If you can give the exact turning word to this koan, so Mumon is so great because he's immediately putting it on our own heart-mind. It's not enough that Ananda and Makayashapa are having this student-teacher relationship. What is our response to the call? You will see that the meeting at Mount Kutakucha is definitely present here. So this timeless time, this eternal time that we're practicing was present in 486, the day before the Buddha died and before he was born. Is present now. If not, then know that Vipassana Buddha is still unable to get the truth, even though he began his seeking in remote antiquity. So Vipassana Buddha, it said, was born before Adam. Very, very old Buddha. Why is Vipassana Buddha unable to get the truth? This again is a koan. We have to actually embody the truth of that moment. That the most ancient of ancient Buddhas is unable to get the truth, even though they're a fully realized Buddha. The calling out is good. I'm reading Mumon's poem now. But even better, the answering. How many times does someone call your name? How many times do you answer? How many times do you finish answering and say, "That was an amazing teisho I just gave"? The truth of the universe has just been expressed by this call and response. Well, guess what? It's actually true. But we don't settle down enough to allow that truth that never fails to be true for us. And that's what we're doing here. How many are there who have opened their true eyes? The elder brother calling out, the younger brother replying, the family shame is revealed. So for some reason, I don't know, Zen just loves to do the opposite of praising. I always scratch my head at that. But so the family shame is revealed means there's kind of the secret of the house has been set forth. That which makes us scratch our heads and wonder what the hell is going on here has been revealed. And crazy, 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 it's always being revealed. It's never hidden, never, ever. not in the slightest movement of the finger. Here, but not here. It's always here. So all we have to do is just wake up to that fact. Not hard. Piece of cake. We could do this. This is the spring that does not belong to yin and yang. So yin and yang, remember Roshi talks about yin and yang as being the function of the relative, right? This polarity of opposites meeting and commingling. So this is beyond the relative. This is entering directly into the absolute, which does not interfere with the relative. Yeah, I know, what the hell? What does that mean? The absolute does not interfere with the relative and is always present as the relative. And the relative does not interfere with the absolute and is always present as the absolute. What? But this is so obvious. You just can't think your way into it, right? Ananda, he knew every single word that the Buddha said, taught even, right? Probably could articulate the meaning of what he taught. But still, this point requires a total shift in perception, a total turning around of the very seat of consciousness, which is, of course, what we're doing here. So I will end with a piece from our reading packet, just to inspire you a little bit to read it, and also I think it's a good capping phrase. This is from Hongji, already complete. Vast, it is intrinsically potent. Pure, it is bright in and of itself. It is universal, and yet it does not grasp the merit of its own illumination. It is able to discern without being burdened by conditioned thinking. It appears without form. It transcends thoughts, imaginations, and feelings. You can only be in accordance with it through actualization. It is not something obtained from someone else. All Buddhas and ancestral masters, which are likened to a multitude of leaves and flowers, continue this affair. Responding, it does not grasp appearances. Illuminating, it is not enshrined by conditions. Dignified and impressive, nothing is concealed in it. This is our family style. Nice. Okay, I will entertain a few questions if you have any. Well, you don't need to take any steps. You're doing it right now. So just steady on, right? Staying with the breath, letting go of the binary, and just resting in your true nature. Not hard, really easy. The gate of ease and repose, bliss and repose. And you have to be a little bit ruthless with that which would obstruct that. I've glared at a few people in Jokusan already.
Just a few points ago, you said this really wonderful sentence, and I can't remember any words from it, but it was like, yes. So it's just like a few lines up. It's a quote. Can you maybe like find it again and say it again? I know that there's not a lot to go on.
Wow. Can I find it again and say it again? That is it.
My name is Eka. My question is, when I lose connection with it, I often get pretty angry with myself. Is that helpful to like have that anger that redirects you, or is there like a more helpful stance when that happens?
Well, it doesn't care if you're angry or not. It is the anger. So don't worry about it. And notice it, what it's the samsaric mind, right? The ego, the conditioned mind that's just so damn aggressive, right? It's like, honey, you don't need to be aggressive. Just relax. You can't fall out of the boat. You can't jump out of the hand of the Buddha. It's like, just allow yourself to feel the tenderness and the trust of that. It's really quite astonishing.
Thank you for your teaching.
My name is Setsuka. When the self dissolves, is it simply awareness that remains aware?
Huh?
When the self dissolves,
How do you know that?
What remains aware? Just let me finish.
How do you know the self dissolved? Before you think the self dissolves, awareness is present. Awareness is present in the self, wondering if the self dissolves. sure that the self dissolves. It's getting kind of like fun today. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. It's like the Buddha way is unsurpassable, right? Nothing can obstruct it. No contrivance can obstruct it. No horrible or the most sophisticated self can obstruct it. Right? And the thing is that it's so easy to get to that place of like awareness, of like merging with true awareness, if you just follow the directions. I'm telling you right now, I promise you. And they're pretty easy instructions. Right? Please, you've got this. You've already got it. You just have to realize that. Trust me, it's not that hard. It's not that hard. Okay, last one, or we can close. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Being
dark